People believe they are free, that their choices are their own. Yet, unseen hands guide their thoughts, desires, and actions every day. Today, you will learn how to bend others to your will without them ever realizing they are being controlled. In every human interaction lies a battlefield. The world is not kind to the Navi. Those who trust blindly are the first to fall. Power is never given. It is seized, nurtured, and protected with cunning precision. In this lesson, we will descend into the shadows of the mind, exploring the delicate art of influence. By understanding the mechanics of deception, persuasion, and hidden control, you will wield authority not through force, but through subtle mastery. Prepare yourself, for what you are about to learn is not taught in schools, but in the silent corridors of power. Do you ever notice how people believe they are making free choices? They think their actions arise from independent thought, that their decisions are their own. And yet, in truth, the mind is a battlefield, and most wander it blindly, oblivious to the subtle hands that guide them. What if I told you that control begins precisely where they believe they are autonomous? That the most potent manipulation is not force, but illusion. Consider the great princes of history, those who rose to power not by might alone, but by clever orchestration. Take Cesare Borgia, for instance, whose influence was never blunt. He did not command blindly, he offered the illusion of freedom, granting his allies the sense that their choices shaped outcomes. And while they believed themselves architects of destiny, it was he who quietly laid the foundations. The lesson is clear: men follow willingly what they think they have chosen themselves. You may ask, is this deceit? Yes, but it is not mere trickery, it is strategy. The world belongs to those who understand that humans crave the semblance of control even more than they crave the truth. People will resist overt commands, yet they will embrace guidance wrapped as their own insight. It is the softest touch that bends the strongest will. Look around you. How often do your peers, your colleagues, even those you call friends, insist they are acting independently, yet their desires, fears, and decisions echo forces they cannot name? It is not coincidence. It is the invisible architecture of influence. You too can learn to construct such subtle scaffolding, shaping actions without ever sparking resistance. Observe the merchant in the marketplace, selling wares with quiet skill. He does not force the coin from your hand, he places choice before you. This one or that one, he asks, and in the act of choosing, you believe you are sovereign. Yet the merchant has already anticipated your desires, your biases, your weaknesses. He guided your choice with a precision you cannot detect. This is the essence of manipulating without detection, the art of guiding while allowing the illusion of freedom to persist. History provides darker examples. Recall the rise of certain political figures who ascended not by declaring themselves rulers, but by framing their actions as the collective will. They never imposed. They suggested, they hinted, they orchestrated circumstances so that the populace felt they were moving of their own volition, and in that perception lay absolute power. What greater weapon exists than to make a man believe he is acting freely while his fate is already sealed? Psychology confirms this ancient wisdom. Humans possess a bias toward autonomy. They will resist overt control but will embrace subtle suggestion as if it were their own. Choice, they believe, is sacred. Yet, if you craft the path carefully, if you understand the desires, fears, and hidden motivations that govern them, you need never raise a hand in command. They will walk it willingly. They will thank you for the very chains you have laid. Ask yourself in your own life, how often have you unknowingly followed the guidance of another? How many decisions did you believe were purely yours, yet were quietly influenced by suggestion, framing, or context? Now imagine wielding that power knowingly. Imagine offering choices that seem free, but are all meticulously orchestrated to serve your aim. Imagine the quiet thrill of watching someone pursue your desired outcome, believing it to be their own. This is not fantasy. It is the precision of influence, sharpened over centuries. And yet, this is only the beginning. The illusion of choice is fragile. It must be maintained with subtlety, with observation, with patience. A single misstep, a too obvious suggestion, a poorly disguised nudge can awaken the mind to manipulation, and the power vanishes. The true strategist thrives in shadows, guiding without exposure, crafting freedom within constraints, and steering action while appearing passive. As you consider this, reflect on the magnitude of the knowledge before you. To command without command, to shape without force, to lead without apparent leadership. This is the mastery that separates those who dominate from those who are dominated. And now, as you sit with this insight, you must ask if you can offer freedom while secretly controlling outcomes. What might you accomplish? What doors open when choice itself becomes your instrument of power? But beware, understanding this principle is not enough. The next step, the deeper art, is learning how to exploit desire and fear to reinforce this illusion. For choice alone is a blade that must be tempered with psychology, guided by subtlety, and hidden in plain sight. And that, dear viewer, is where the true game begins: fear and desire. These are the twin levers that move men, more powerful than reason, more faithful than loyalty. Ask yourself, why does a man betray his friend, abandon his principles, or bend his will to another? It is not by logic, not by honor, but by what he hopes to gain, or what he fears to lose. If you wish to influence, to control without detection, you must understand this fundamental truth: humans are puppets of their own appetites and anxieties. And those who master these levers master the mind itself. Consider the Roman generals, whose victories were as much in the hearts of their soldiers as on the battlefield. Julius Caesar understood this intimately. He did not merely command armies, he orchestrated desire, promises of glory, the allure of wealth, the fear of shame or death. These invisible threads bound men to his will. They marched, they fought, they conquered, not because they were forced, but because they could not bear the thought of dishonoring themselves or missing the spoils he dangled before them. Do you see the lesson? Control is never imposed, it is invited through the careful manipulation of what others value most. And what of kings and princes who ruled entire nations without lifting a sword? Louis XIV, the Sun King, surrounded himself with spectacle, ceremony, and opulence. The court was a theater of desire, and those who wished favor or feared disgrace danced obediently to his silent music. They believed themselves free agents, yet each action, each word, was guided by invisible currents of ambition and anxiety. To manipulate effectively, you must observe the same, understand what your target craves, what they dread, and make both serve your purpose. Let us turn to a more personal theater, one closer to your daily life. How often have you seen someone persuaded by subtle flattery, small gestures, or carefully planted suggestions? It is not magic. It is the exploitation of desire and fear. A compliment, a warning, a choice framed with precision. These are the tools of influence. The human mind, ever seeking reward and fleeing threat, moves predictably when guided by these forces. And if you recognize these patterns, you can lead without resistance, shaping thought as if it were your own reflection. Ask yourself, what is it that people most want? Approval, safety, power, recognition. And what do they fear? Rejection, loss, humiliation. Align your strategies with these motives. Offer them the promise of reward just out of reach, and they will strive for it with unknowing devotion. Hint at the danger of inaction, and they will act as you wish. Every decision, every step, can be subtly orchestrated if you first map the landscape of human craving and anxiety. History is filled with examples where those who ignored these levers fell, while those who mastered them thrived. Consider Machiavelli's own examples of rulers who lost their states through neglect of fear and desire. Their armies deserted them. Their subjects conspired against them. Yet those who understood the human heart, who could promise, threaten, and cajole with precision, became immortal in influence. This is the cold arithmetic of power. The more you understand the hidden drivers of men, the less they realize they are being guided. Now reflect on your own life. Every person you meet has an inner calculus of hope and dread. Every choice they make is influenced by the subtle pull of these forces. Could you, if skilled enough, Steer those choices without ever revealing your hand. Could you plant a seed of ambition here, a whisper of fear there, and watch the outcome bloom exactly as you intended? It is not cruelty, it is mastery. The wise do not waste energy forcing others. They bend the currents of desire and fear, and the world flows according to their design. And yet, a warning, these levers are potent but perilous. Misread a desire, exaggerate a fear, and resistance awakens. The power of subtlety is delicate. It must be applied with constant vigilance, observation, and patience. Those who rush, those who underestimate the mind's complexity, find themselves undone by the very forces they sought to command. So, as you sit with this knowledge, consider if desire and fear govern all men, and you know how to wield them. What becomes of loyalty? What becomes of obedience? What becomes of power itself? You hold the key to influence that can bend the will of armies, courts, and individuals alike. But the next step, the mastery of masks, the subtle art of appearing virtuous while acting strategically, is where true dominance begins. And that is where we must journey next. Virtue, honor, integrity. Men speak of these as if they were shields, yet in the theater of influence, they are often the heaviest chains. Those who wield them openly believe they are safe, that truth alone protects them. But the world is not governed by ideals, it is governed by perception. And perception, dear viewer, can be molded, curated, and controlled. The greatest manipulators know this to hold power. One must often hide behind a mask of virtue, projecting honesty while acting with cold, deliberate strategy. Consider Augustus Caesar, the first emperor of Rome. He presented himself as a humble servant of the Republic, a man of restraint and piety. Yet behind this carefully constructed image lay a ruler who consolidated power, eliminated rivals, and shaped laws to cement his dominance. His honesty, as displayed to the public, was a mask, a tool that drew trust while allowing him to maneuver unchecked. Do you see the pattern? Those who appear honest are often the most effective architects of control, for men are deceived not by lies alone, but by what they believe is truth. Now, ask yourself, why does honesty command respect, yet often invite vulnerability? It is because people see in it a reflection of their own fears and insecurities. To be honest is to expose one's intentions, one's weaknesses, one's inner calculations. Those who are blunt with truth may appear noble, but they are also predictable, and predictability is exploitable. A man who hides his motives, who wears the mask of virtue while subtly guiding events, moves freely through the minds and actions of others. He is untouchable because no one can read him fully, and yet all trust him implicitly. History is littered with those who failed to master this balance. Honest kings and generals, who believed virtue alone would protect them, fell victim to deception, betrayal, and manipulation. Consider the fate of King Louis, ex-Fi of France. His reputation for personal decency could not shield him from the forces of revolution. The people demanded more than honesty. They demanded perception, influence, and strategy. Those who wield the semblance of honesty with cunning, however, navigate treacherous currents with precision, turning apparent transparency into a fortress of power. And in the everyday world, the principle remains the same. Have you not noticed how the most trusted individuals often guide decisions subtly, without force or argument? A leader who appears straightforward, yet withholds full disclosure, plants ideas in the minds of others. They seem to act independently, yet the course has been quietly steered. Your perception of their honesty becomes their tool. Trust becomes a bridge you willingly cross into their realm of influence. It is a silent mastery that few recognize until it is complete. Psychology supports this ancient truth. Humans are inclined to project integrity onto others, especially those who appear transparent. This is called the halo effect. A single trait of apparent honesty colors all perception, creating a blind spot in judgment. A subtle manipulator exploits this instinct. By cultivating the appearance of virtue, they lower defenses, making others more receptive to guidance, suggestion, and influence. The mask is not deception for its own sake. It is strategy, the alignment of appearance with desired outcomes. So, reflect. Is honesty inherently dangerous? or is it the naive application of it that invites ruin? To act with honesty without strategy is to hand the field to those who understand human psychology. To master influence, you must learn to blend truth and calculation, to present integrity while guiding action invisibly. Like a skilled general, you fortify the mind's trust while maneuvering freely behind its defenses. Now imagine yourself in this position. Every word, every gesture, every carefully crafted display of integrity becomes a tool. People see what they expect, and you move where they cannot perceive. You hold the power of influence cloaked in virtue, untouchable and invisible. The world respects honesty, yet follows those who combine it with mastery. This is not betrayal, it is strategy, refined over centuries, honed in the crucible of politics and human ambition. And yet, a warning whispers in the shadows: the mask must be flawless, the display consistent, the subtlety absolute. A misstep, a contradiction, a glance too revealing, a slip in tone, can shatter the illusion. The manipulators of history thrived not because they were dishonest, but because they made honesty their instrument, bending perception while protecting action. So, as you sit with this knowledge, consider the power at your fingertips. To wield honesty as a weapon, to appear open while guiding secretly, to command trust while remaining untouchable. This is the next level of mastery. But mastery alone is insufficient. The next secret, the next refinement, is understanding how to craft invisible traps, psychological snares that secure compliance without resistance. And that, dear viewer, is where our journey must continue. Power is not given, it is taken, cultivated, and guarded with vigilance. But true control rarely comes from overt domination. Force may bend the body, but it cannot bend the mind. The subtle art of influence lies in invisible structures, traps carefully set so that men ensnare themselves without realizing it. Ask yourself, how often do people comply willingly, believing they act freely, yet they follow the path you designed? This is the mastery of subtle psychological traps, the silent architecture of control. History provides lessons carved in stone. Consider Cardinal Richelieu, the architect of French absolutism. He did not command armies directly, nor did he confront rivals openly at every turn. Instead, he positioned threats, whispered suspicions, and manipulated alliances. He guided nobles into decisions they thought were independent, but each step strengthened his grip on power. Observe the precision: no one felt coerced, no one recognized the trap, until the outcome was irreversible. This is the hallmark of the strategic mind, to shape reality while appearing passive. And yet, subtlety demands acute observation. Every individual carries patterns, biases, and predictable responses. The clever manipulator studies these traits like a general surveys terrain. Where is fear strongest? Where does desire linger? Which choices will a person resist, and which will they embrace? Once identified, these tendencies become the framework for psychological snares. A whispered suggestion here, a feigned omission there, and the mind takes the bait willingly, believing it to be their own insight. Think of the merchants of Venice, masters of commerce and subtlety. They did not coerce their partners. They framed opportunities to appear advantageous while ensuring the outcome served their interest. Contracts, negotiations, even casual remarks were carefully orchestrated to create voluntary compliance. The result: wealth and influence expanded without confrontation, all while leaving counterparts convinced they had acted autonomously. This is the quiet elegance of invisible control. Psychology explains why such traps succeed. Humans possess a bias toward confirming their own choices and rationalizing their behavior. Once a path is suggested subtly, once a seed of action is planted, they take ownership of the decision. Resistance is rare because they perceive agency. You are no longer forcing them. You are merely nudging them along a corridor of your design. And when they reach the destination, they believe it was their own idea, never suspecting the invisible hands that guided them. Ask yourself, how often are your own actions guided by subtle forces beyond your awareness? Advertising, social expectation, even flattery and fear, they all shape behavior. Now imagine applying the same principles consciously. Imagine planting ideas so delicately, crafting options so cleverly, that others take the path you desire willingly, without realizing it. Influence becomes effortless. Power becomes invisible. You do not need to strike, you merely set the stage and watch men move as pieces upon it. But mastery requires patience. The trap must be invisible, the nudge imperceptible. Too direct and suspicion awakens, too weak and it fails. Like a general arranging his lines for battle, timing, spacing, and subtlety dictate success. Observe constantly, adjust quietly, anticipate reactions. The greatest manipulators thrive in silence, letting their strategy unfold like a shadow over the minds of others, unseen yet undeniable in effect. History teaches another caution. Subtle traps can backfire if misjudged. Overestimate fear, underestimate desire, and the snare collapses. Misread ambition, and your carefully crafted illusion becomes a rallying point for resistance. The art lies in precision, the delicate balance of influence, the interplay of suggestion and freedom. Those who succeed are neither cruel nor obvious. They are invisible engineers of outcomes, guiding behavior with invisible threads. So reflect, what power could you wield if every decision around you bent silently to your will? What influence could you command if people walked into your carefully prepared snares without realizing it? This is the domain of psychological traps. Control achieved not by force, but by understanding the machinery of thought and desire. Once the trap is set, the world moves for you, unaware of the subtle orchestration beneath the surface. Yet, a whisper of warning remains. Setting a trap is only the beginning. The next step, deeper mastery, is to combine these snares with perception and appearance. To manipulate without detection, you must cloak your strategy in virtue, project honesty, and exploit trust. Only then does influence become unbreakable, unseen yet absolute. And that, dear viewer, is the path we will explore in the next segment. Perception is more powerful than reality. Consider this carefully. Men act not upon the truth, but upon what they believe to be true. What a person sees, hears, and believes shapes their behavior far more than facts ever could. To master influence, you must first master perception. Control the lens through which others view the world, and you control their actions, their judgments, even their loyalties. Do you wish to wield true power? Then you must become the architect of reality in the minds of men. History provides the greatest illustrations. Alexander the Great was not merely a conqueror of lands, he was a conqueror of imagination. His enemies often surrendered before battle, intimidated not solely by his armies, but by the legend he cultivated. Stories of invincibility, of divine favor, of ruthless strategy, they were carefully propagated. His perception became reality in the minds of others. He understood that fear, awe, and belief are more binding than chains or swords. What force can resist a mind convinced it faces the inevitable? And what of Cleopatra, the Queen of the Nile? Her power was as much in the spectacle of her presence as in alliances or military support. She understood the psychology of perception intimately. To Caesar, to Antony, to the people of Egypt, she presented an image crafted to inspire desire, loyalty, and respect. Perception became her weapon, she controlled it with precision. Those who underestimate the mind's response to appearances will never grasp the quiet dominion of influence. Look around at your own world. How often do men judge by appearances, by reputation, by carefully curated signals rather than substance? A confident posture, a calm tone, a decisive gesture. These shape beliefs more than any argument or evidence. The same principle governs leadership, negotiation, even intimate relationships. Humans are drawn to cues that suggest competence, virtue, or power. Control the cues and you control their conclusions. Psychology confirms this. Humans have an innate bias toward inference. We fill gaps in knowledge with assumption. We trust visible patterns. We rely on signals more than certainty. A skilled strategist exploits this. By crafting perception, by managing appearance, context, and narrative, you can shape thought without confrontation. People will act as though compelled by reality, when in truth, it is the perception you engineered that guides them. Ask yourself, how often have you seen events unfold that seemed inevitable, yet behind the scenes, invisible hands orchestrated every step? Wars, business deals, Political ascensions, social influence, they all hinge on perceived reality. The man who grasps this understands that action follows belief. To alter the world, you must first alter belief. And to alter belief, you must control what others perceive. The dangers are clear. Perception is fragile. It is a mirror easily shattered by contradiction, inconsistency, or exposure. The architect of influence must maintain vigilance, monitoring every signal, every reflection, every interpretation. One misaligned word, one ill-timed action, and the illusion collapses. Those who fail to sustain perception are powerless, no matter how cunning their strategy or how brilliant their manipulation. Consider Machiavelli's cautionary examples. Princes who relied on force without shaping perception were often overthrown. The people obeyed the stronger, yes, but only when the stronger appeared just, inevitable, or necessary. Without the veneer of perception, force alone invites rebellion. Influence is invisible armor. It protects, guides, and persuades. Appearances are not superficial. They are instruments of control. Now, imagine this. You can shape the way every observer interprets your words, actions, and presence. You can cultivate awe, loyalty, or fear. You can present virtue where it serves, hide motives where they would provoke resistance, and create a reality that aligns perfectly with your objectives. Influence becomes not a battle, but an orchestration, a symphony in which all actors move precisely as you intend, convinced they are free. And yet, a warning lingers. Perception must be absolute, consistent, and believable. The slightest fracture exposes reality, invites scrutiny, and dissolves control. Mastery of perception is mastery of the invisible. It is the last, essential step in the art of influence. Those who command it bend reality itself, moving through the world untouchable, their power silent yet undeniable. So, consider the magnitude of this knowledge. To govern perception is to govern action. To govern action is to govern outcomes. The next step, the final refinement, is learning to weave all these elements together: choice, desire, fear, honesty, subtle traps, and perception into a single, seamless strategy of influence. And that, dear viewer, is where the ultimate mastery of power lies. Power is never surrendered. It is taken in silence, in shadow, in strategy. Those who believe they act freely are often the most controlled. You have seen it. Choice can be guided, desire can be harnessed, fear can be directed, honesty can be masked, and perception can be shaped. Every mind is a battlefield. Every action is a lever. Ask yourself who truly commands the world: the one who strikes openly, or the one who bends men's wills without revealing his hand? Influence without detection is the crown of strategy. Subtlety is stronger than force. Observation sharper than steel. Control hidden yet absolute. Now, the question remains for you. What will you do with this knowledge? Will you remain a pawn or become the hand that moves them? Leave your thoughts below. Share the insight you found most revealing. Subscribe, if you dare, to uncover more Machiavellian strategies, and share this knowledge. Power is only potent when it spreads, unseen, until its effects are undeniable.